The Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. In the shadowed realm of Ravensreach, where the ancient forest met jagged cliffs, the wind whispered tales of blood and betrayal. The glades, once serene and filled with the songs of birds, now bore the scars of countless battles, splattered with the crimson of fallen warriors. Among them stood Kaelin, a young hunter marked by fate and a broken spear. Kaelin's spear, shattered in the last raid, was more than a weapon. It was the symbol of his clan's honor. To lose it was to lose his standing, and in Ravensreach, honor was all a man had. His father, the clan chief, had fallen defending their lands from the encroaching shadow of a rival tribe known as the Black Fangs, ferocious warriors who spilled blood without remorse. Now, Kaelin hunted not just for survival, but for redemption. Guided by the fading light through the blood-stained glades, he tracked the Black Fangs deep into the forest. The scent of smoke and iron led him to a clearing where the enemy's war drums echoed like thunder. Shadows flickered in the firelight, revealing their numbers and their merciless leader, Varek. Kaelin's heart pounded. He could not face them head-on, not with his broken spear. Yet, honor demanded he confront Varek, reclaim what was lost, and restore his clan's name. Drawing a shard of his shattered spear, he slipped silently through the underbrush, eyes sharp, breath steady. The hunt became a deadly game of cat and mouse. Kaelin struck with precision, taking down foes with the cunning of a wolf. The blood-stained glades bore witness as he moved like a shadow, fueled by grief and resolve. Finally, face to face with Varek, Kaelin raised the broken spear shard, no longer a symbol of defeat, but a beacon of fierce defiance. Their battle was fierce and brutal. Steel clashed against steel, echoing through the glades. But it was Kaelin's will, hardened by loss and honor, that prevailed. With a final strike, Varek fell, his war cry silenced by the forest's eerie calm. Kaelin stood alone in the clearing, bloodied but unbowed. The broken spear in his hand now gleamed with a new purpose, the promise that honor, once shattered, could be reforged. As dawn broke over the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach, the hunter's quest had ended, but his legend had only just begun. Want me to expand any part or make it into a full chapter? Got it. Here's the next part continuing the broken spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. Kaelin knelt beside the fallen Varek, the firelight casting flickering shadows over the ruthless leader's face. The Black Fang chieftain's eyes were fierce even in death, but the threat he had posed was ended. Kaelin's chest heaved with exhaustion and a fierce sense of victory, yet his mind remained heavy. The forest was quiet again, but the peace felt fragile. Ravensreach was a land soaked in the blood of ancient grudges, and Kaelin knew this victory was only a chapter in a much darker story. The Black Fangs would not vanish so easily, and whispers of a greater menace lurking beyond the mountains troubled his thoughts. With dawn's first light filtering through the twisted branches, Kaelin gathered what he could from the clearing: Varek's war banner, a few broken weapons, and the shard of his broken spear. This shard, once a mark of failure, now seemed almost holy. It was the spark that would reignite his clan's honor. Returning to his village was bittersweet. The smoke still rose from charred huts, and the faces of survivors bore the weight of sorrow and hope intertwined. Kaelin's return stirred whispers among his people, some in awe, others in doubt. Could a broken spear truly bring honor back? His father's seat as chief was empty, a shadow looming over the clan's future. The elders called a gathering beneath the ancient stone circle, where the wind carried the voices of ancestors. Kaelin stepped forward, spear shard in hand, and spoke of the hunt, the battles, and the hard lessons learned in the blood-stained glades. He vowed to rebuild, not just their defenses, but the spirit of Ravensreach, to hunt not for revenge alone, but for a future where honor was not stained by endless war. As the clan rallied behind him, a distant howl echoed from the forest's edge, a reminder that Ravensreach's shadows were far from vanquished. Kaelin tightened his grip on the broken spear shard, ready to face whatever darkness awaited. For in Ravensreach, honor was a flame that, once lit, refused to die. Want me to keep going with this story? Would you like more action, character details, or world building next? Here's the next part of the broken spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. Days turned into weeks as Kaelin worked tirelessly to strengthen the defenses of his clan. The broken spear shard he carried had become a symbol, not just of his personal struggle, but of hope for all Ravensreach. The villagers, once broken and weary, began training again, their eyes sharper, their hearts steeled. But Kaelin knew that rebuilding walls and sharpening blades was not enough. The Black Fangs were only pawns in a greater game, and the true threat lay beyond the northern mountains, where the shadows deepened into a darkness no one dared name. One cold evening, as the sun bled red across the sky, a scout returned with grave news. A great army, twisted and unnatural, was marching toward Ravensreach, creatures clad in black armor, their eyes glowing with malice, followed by shamans whose dark magic bent the very forest to their will. The Bloodbound Legion. Legends told of them as ghosts of old wars, but Kaelin had always believed they were mere stories to frighten children. Now, the nightmare was real. Kaelin gathered the clan leaders beneath the ancient stone circle once more. "We face a storm unlike any before," he said, voice firm. "The broken spear will guide us, but we must stand united. We fight not just for honor, but for survival." That night, as the village prepared for siege, Kaelin sat alone by the dying embers of a fire. The broken spear shard gleamed faintly in the dark, reminding him of the journey so far, of loss, of vengeance, and now, of hope. The blood-stained glades would soon run red again, but this time, Kaelin would not hunt alone, he would lead. "Want me to continue? I can dive into the battle or explore the Bloodbound Legion's origins next." Here's the continuation of The Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. The dawn was swallowed by thick, unnatural fog as the Bloodbound Legion advanced, their blackened armor scraped like the claws of some great beast, and the twisted chants of their shamans curled through the air like poison. Ravensreach's hunters stood ready, shadows against the rising storm. Kaelin gripped the broken spear shard, now reforged into a jagged, lethal weapon by the clan's smiths. It was no longer broken, it was a blade born from fire and blood, sharp and unyielding. The first wave hit the glades with a fury unlike any Kaelin had ever seen. Arrows darkened the sky, steel clashed against steel, and the cries of battle shook the ancient trees. But Ravensreach fought with a desperate courage, every man and woman a storm of wrath and will. Kaelin found himself face to face with one of the bloodbound shamans, a gaunt figure whose eyes burned with malevolent light. The sorcerer unleashed a torrent of dark magic, twisting the forest itself to attack. Vines writhed like serpents, roots split the earth, and shadows danced with deadly intent. But Kaelin moved with the speed of the hunted, dodging and weaving. His spear struck true, shattering the sorcerer's staff and silencing the dark magic with a burst of blinding light from the shard. As the shamans fell, the legion faltered. The hunters surged forward, rallying under Kaelin's war cry. The battle turned, a tempest of steel and blood in the heart of the blood-stained glades. When the last of the bloodbound fled, broken and defeated, the forest was still once more. Kaelin stood amidst the fallen, breath heavy but victorious. Ravensreach had survived the storm. But deep within the glades, where shadows lingered longest, a whisper echoed, an ancient promise that the hunt for honor was far from over. Want me to keep going with what happens after the battle or shift focus to a new threat or character? Here's the next part continuing The Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. As the echoes of battle faded, Kaelin wandered deeper into the glades. The forest now eerily silent but heavy with unseen eyes. The bloodstains on the earth were fresh reminders of the cost paid, but his spirit burned brighter than ever. The spear shard pulsed faintly in his grasp, as if alive with the forest's ancient power. Suddenly, a low growl rumbled through the underbrush. From the shadows emerged a figure cloaked in dark furs, an outcast of Ravensreach, long believed lost to the wilds. It was Elora, Kaelin's childhood friend and the clan's most skilled tracker. Her eyes held a warning. "They were only the beginning," she said, voice grim. "Beyond the northern ridge lies a force darker than the bloodbound, a corrupted beast that feeds on war and death itself. If we do not stop it, Ravensreach will burn to ash." Kaelin's jaw tightened. The hunt was no longer just for honor or survival, it was for the soul of their land. Together, they gathered a small band of warriors, those brave enough to face the unknown. Armed with sharpened blades and the reforged spear, they set out toward the northern ridge, leaving behind the smoldering village. As the glades gave way to twisted, barren wastes, the air thickened with menace. The corrupted beast awaited, a monstrous force born of shadow and flame, its eyes burning with a hunger beyond mortal understanding. The final hunt had begun. Want me to continue the journey toward this dark force, or explore Elira's story and her time in exile? Here's the continuation of the Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. The path to the northern ridge was treacherous. Every step seemed to draw the hunters deeper into a realm twisted by dark magic. Trees with blackened bark clawed at the sky like skeletal fingers, and the ground beneath their feet pulsed with an unnatural heat. Elira led the way, her keen eyes scanning the shadows for signs of the corrupted beast. Her silence was heavy with unspoken fears, but Kaelin trusted her instincts more than his own. At last, they reached a clearing where the earth was cracked and scorched. In the center stood a towering creature, part beast, part nightmare. Its body was wrapped in flickering shadows, and fiery veins traced across its skin like molten scars. Its roar shattered the stillness, shaking the glades to their core. The corrupted beast lunged, a living tempest of rage and destruction. The hunters scattered, blades flashing and arrows flying, but it was Kaelin who stood his ground, raising the broken spear shard, now glowing with a fierce blue light. He charged. The battle was brutal and desperate. Each strike of the spear clashed against the beast's fiery hide, sparks flying. Elira and the others fought valiantly, distracting the creature and protecting Kaelin from its savage attacks. With a final, desperate surge, Kaelin drove the spear shard deep into the beast's heart. The creature let out a deafening howl, its fiery form dissolving into ash and shadow. As silence returned, the glades seemed to breathe again, the dark magic lifting like a fading storm. Kaelin lowered the spear, its glow dimming but never fading entirely. The hunt for honor had led them through blood and shadow, but the land of Ravensreach was free for now. Want me to continue with how the clan rebuilds, or maybe a twist that something remains in the shadows? Here's the next part, continuing the Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. Just as the hunters began to catch their breath, a chill swept through the clearing. The air grew heavy with a silence deeper than death itself. From the smoldering ashes of the beast, a faint, whispering voice curled through the wind, a promise and a curse intertwined. You may have slain the body, but the darkness remains. Kaelin's eyes narrowed. The spear shard in his hand pulsed faintly, as if warning him. Elira stepped forward, her face pale. There's more, she said quietly. This was but a herald, a guardian of something far worse, buried beneath Ravensreach. The ground trembled beneath their feet. From the earth, ancient roots writhed and cracked, revealing a yawning chasm that seemed to breathe with malevolent life. From its depths, faint glowing eyes stared up at them, hungry and endless. Kaelin raised the broken spear shard once more, its light steady and true. Then our hunt is not finished, he declared. For honor, for Ravensreach. The clan's fate hung in the balance, caught between the blood-stained glades above and the dark abyss below. And Kaelin, with his broken spear reforged, would lead the charge into the unknown. Because some hunts never truly end. Want me to keep going deeper into this underground threat or shift back to the clan's perspective? Here's the next chapter, continuing the Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. Kaelin stood at the edge of the abyss, the flickering light from the spear shard casting eerie shadows on the twisted roots that clawed out like grasping hands. The air was thick with the scent of earth and something far older, something ancient and hungry. Behind him, Elira tightened the straps of her bow, eyes scanning the darkness. No path leads down from here but the one we make ourselves, she said. But if the clan's future depends on this, then we have no choice. With a steady breath, Kaelin led the small band of warriors down the jagged roots, into the cold, suffocating darkness beneath Ravensreach. The deeper they descended, the more the air seemed to pulse with a malevolent presence. Strange glyphs, carved deep into stone, glowed faintly with an unnatural light. Whispers echoed, voices of forgotten things warning them to turn back. But Kaelin's grip on the spear shard never faltered. The broken spear had become a beacon, one that burned brighter the closer they came to the source of the corruption. In the depths of the abyss, they found a chamber vast and alive with dark power. At its center, an ancient altar pulsed with sickly green light, feeding on the roots of the forest itself, and upon it lay a figure, neither fully man nor beast, bound by chains of shadow and flame. The true heart of the darkness. Kaelin stepped forward, voice steady and fierce. Your reign ends here. The figure's eyes snapped open, blazing with fury and pain. The final battle for Ravensreach was about to begin. Want me to continue with the confrontation or explore the figure's backstory? Here's the next part continuing the broken spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. The figure stirred, chains clinking with a sound like the rattling of bones. Its form was twisted, half man, half something ancient and terrible, with eyes burning like molten gold and claws that scraped the stone floor. "I am Malgrath," the creature hissed, voice echoing like 1,000 whispers, "once a guardian of these lands, until they betrayed me." Kaelin's grip on the spear shard tightened. "You were bound for your crimes. Your darkness threatens all life in Ravensreach." Malgrath laughed, a sound that chilled the blood. "The clan's honor is but a fragile lie. I offer true power, freedom from the weak chains of tradition." Elora stepped forward, arrow knocked and aimed. "We fight for honor, not power born of shadows." The chamber trembled as Malgrath rose, breaking his chains with a roar that shook the very earth. Dark energy surged from him, twisting the roots and stones into snarling beasts. The hunters readied themselves. Kaelin raised the broken spear shard, its blue light flaring like a star in the gloom. "This ends now," Kaelin vowed. The clash of light and shadow erupted in the depths of Ravensreach, the fate of the clan, and the very soul of the forest, hanging in the balance. Want me to continue with the battle's climax or aftermath? Here's the climax of the broken spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. The chamber was swallowed by chaos. Malgrath's dark energy surged in waves, tearing at the earth and striking like lightning. The hunters dodged and weaved, their weapons flashing in the eerie glow of the altar's sickly light. Kaelin stood at the center, the spear shard blazing fiercely. Every strike he landed drove the beast back. But Malgrath's power was immense, fueled by centuries of rage and betrayal. Elora's arrows found their marks, disrupting the twisted creatures born from Malgrath's corruption. The warriors fought with every ounce of strength and honor they had left. But the tide turned when Malgrath's claws raked across Kaelin's side, sending him sprawling against the altar. Pain seared through him, but the broken spear shard pulsed in his hand, filling him with a surge of ancient power. Rising, Kaelin called upon the strength of his ancestors. With a mighty cry, he plunged the spear shard deep into Malgrath's chest. The beast howled, the darkness within him unraveling like smoke. Chains of light wrapped around him, binding him once more, but this time, not to imprison, but to purify. As Malgrath's form dissolved into pure energy, the chamber's dark glow faded. The roots began to heal, the earth steadying beneath their feet. Kaelin collapsed, exhausted but victorious. Elora knelt beside him, her eyes filled with both relief and respect. Ravensreach was saved, not just by a warrior's might, but by the honor that refused to break, even when the spear did. Want me to write an ending that shows the clan's future or an epilogue hinting at new adventures? Here's an epilogue for the broken spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach. Months later, the village of Ravensreach stood reborn. The blood-stained glades had softened, the scars of war slowly healing under the watchful eyes of new life. Trees stretched their limbs skyward, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and fresh earth. Kaelin, now clan chief, stood atop the ancient stone circle, the broken spear shard, repaired, reforged, and glowing faintly with blue light, rested in his hands. It was a symbol not just of battles won, but of resilience and hope. Beside him, Elora scanned the horizon. "The darkness is gone, for now." Kaelin nodded. "Honor is a path, not a destination. Ravensreach will stand as long as we remember that." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the glades, a distant howl echoed through the forest, wild, free, and untamed. Kaelin smiled grimly. The hunt was never truly over. "If you want, I can help turn this into a full story or add more characters and details. Here's a new beginning for a sequel or continuation of The Broken Spear, a hunt for honor in the blood-stained glades of Ravensreach." Years had passed since the fall of Malgrath, and peace had settled like a fragile veil over Ravensreach. But legends are not so easily buried. A cold wind carried whispers of a new shadow stirring beyond the eastern borders, an ancient threat older than even Malgrath, awakening from a slumber beneath the forgotten ruins of the Blackstone Keep. Kaelin, now older and wiser, felt the weight of the spear shard in his hand, a reminder that honor demanded vigilance, not rest. Beside him, a new generation of hunters readied themselves. The blood-stained glades had taught them well, the hunt for honor never ends, and the darkness always waits. The broken spear would rise again. Want me to keep building this sequel or explore a new character's journey in Ravensreach?